What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Accelerate Your Life podcast. I'm your host, Mallory Marks, and hello, Kayla. What's up? How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Super good and super excited to have you here. Thanks for coming on. And I'll give a little introduction to everyone listening because obviously they can see that we're joined by your presence today. But yeah, today we are joined by Kayla Diamond. She is a fellow fitness coach and the owner of Evolve Health or Health. No, it's high performance coaching, right? Health and
Evolve
performance.
Health and Performance.
Evolve
Yep.
Health and Performance Coaching. And I wanted to bring Kayla on today because, and I will let you speak for yourself here in just a moment, but I do want to hype you up myself. I think where you and your team's expertise really lies is in the training side of things. And
Mhm.
something I've been really having, conversation I've been having with clients, potential clients a lot lately is everybody's just so hyper focused on the nutrition side of things, which is very important. But after the last podcast episode I did for this previous week, which was all about progressive overload, which if you guys haven't checked that one out, go check it out. But I really started thinking about how much people really don't give enough credit to the like training and exercise side of things. Not only just exercising in general, but like how the right type of exercise impacts success. So I wanted to continue that convo on this week's episode, and I couldn't think of a better person to do that with than you. So um, before we dive in though, this
Okay.
is totally unrelated. I have a little
Mhm.
question I love to ask all my podcast guests just so we can like
Okay.
kind of get to know them. It's just a little positive, cute thing. What is one thing that you love about life right now?
Ooh, right now. We just moved, me and my husband just moved to Ashburn, Virginia, which is about 45 minutes outside of DC. And I love it. So much to do.
Yay.
The weather is beautiful. Where we live, I can literally walk anywhere I need to.
That's the
And
best.
the walkability, I will never not live without it.
Yes.
Like it's amazing. So I really just kind of love like our day to day because it is always just like super yeah, it's just accessible. I can just go walk to Starbucks, walk to coffee shops, walk to the gym, walk to Trader Joe's. And I just really love having this accessibility, and just the town itself is just really cool.
That's
So
such a good answer. And it's like I think being able to walk everywhere is such a little thing that is so underrated. I don't think I could ever live anywhere where I can't walk to a coffee shop. I love
it's
it.
it's everything. And I have lived on the outskirts of nowhere, the
Yeah.
middle of nowhere. And it's just, I don't like the quality of life. I just love being around things. I get FOMO. I want to
Yeah.
be around people and things. And so this is great.
Well, I'm excited for you because I know you guys have been kind of like bopping back and forth
Yeah.
between places with his baseball and like, just not feeling super settled. So it's awesome to hear you've also felt settled in a place that's going to
Yeah.
be like your day to day, right? So, hey, I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, then before we get into the nitty gritty, let's get a little bit of your background. I like to kind of ask the question. Obviously, we're going to be talking a lot about training and all of that. So I'd probably relate it to that. But like, what gives you the right to come in here as an expert about that?
Oh, that's a really good question. I actually started off as an athletic trainer. So, an athletic trainer is a sports medicine personnel person who works on a sports team and treats injuries. So, whenever you're watching football and somebody goes down and whoever like runs out, like that was me. So, I would run out, I would take care of the guys, the girls. Then we would do rehab, and I would be like first aid care as well. And so I really just didn't, while I loved it, okay, it's one thing about me. I like love everything. So it's like sometimes a blessing and a curse. I loved it, but I didn't love the schedule
Yeah.
and just the daily grind. And so I also didn't love, being there. I didn't love being there reactively. I wanted to be more
Hmm.
proactive.
Yeah.
So I became a strength conditioning coach. And so I got my CSCS, so my certified strength conditioning specialist in 2014. And I began coaching athletes like in the weight room in college. And I then worked at a private training facility where we worked with athletes from like age to eight to 80. So I worked with a lot of even like professional football players and different sports. Been doing that for 10 to 11 years now. I also as far as nutrition goes, have my certified sport nutritionist as well. And I started my online coaching business in 2018. Like my husband's in athletics, right? So we like bounced around all the time. And so I would train these clients in person, I would leave and they would want to follow me online. So that's kind of how it started. and then went full time into Evolve in 2020 and have been coaching like high performing athletes online since 2018. So we now have a team of 5 of us, so 4 coaches under me. And we also created a certification for the Next Level Coaching Academy, teaching other fitness professionals how to program and the nitty gritty of like exercise, anatomy, training, considerations, special populations, etc. So, that is my background.
Quite the resume. And yeah, I think like something to note is with your company, you guys do kind of take more so of those like higher level athletes and really get into the nitty gritty of training. So we'll kind of scratch the surface with this conversation today. But if you're listening to this and you're more of just even a person who's trying to lose weight and like not necessarily trying to do anything crazy with your training, it's still really crucial to have the right type of training. So yeah, we'll kind of get into that. And yeah, I think, I mean, getting into that conversation, at least for us, many of our clients at Accelerate Athletics come to us, with goals of either just wanting to lose weight or maybe to add some lean muscle and look more quote unquote toned, right? But they think they just need help with nutrition because they
Mhm.
are working out. They're like, yeah, I'm going to Orange Theory, I'm going to Bring Boot Camp, I'm going to these my personal training sessions, I'm running, like they're moving their body. Awesome. So they're like, well, that can't be the problem, because I'm exercising. So it must be my nutrition. And I think I know your take, but definitely want to hear yours. But I mean, I disagree with that. I think as professionals, we know how much the right strategy, like, yes, it's great. It's one thing to work out, but the right strategy around that can really play into your goals. So I think that's a good place to start. Why does giving more thought to what you're doing for that actual exercise beyond just making sure you're doing something matter?
Yeah, I think like we've gotten to the culture where something is better than nothing. And to be honest, like I don't always agree with that because
Mhm.
you can be doing the something and you can be spinning your wheels and not getting results and spending so much time, energy, mental energy just going about doing the wrong thing. And people either blame their hormones, people blame their
Yeah.
age, people blame their metabolism, their genetics, like the neighbor. I don't fucking know. I can cuss on this podcast,
Yes,
right?
yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. Um, and while moving your body and being active is great, and that looks different for many different people. But at the end of the day, like if you want to reach a new level that you haven't yet reached, it does take a different stimulus. And the
Mhm.
stimulus that you're doing is only going to be good for so long. At some point, you're going to plateau. And then what? And then what do you do? So we work with beginners as well. We don't have a whole lot of beginners, but we do work with a lot of people who have been doing it on their own for a long time.
Yeah.
And then you get to the point where like, okay, I need this extra level of support because I have this athletic potential that's not untapped, and then I want to reach that peak. So it's just so important to have a strategy behind what you're doing because you're just wasting time and
Yeah.
energy and resources when you could be doing something correct.
Yeah, I agree. And I think like the big differentiating thing is if you have a specific goal, right? Because like if truly all you want to do is sweat and burn some calories because like it is good to exercise and you're just trying to stay where you're at, cool, go do whatever like floats your boat. In that case, I think that is the only time in my opinion where like that something is better than nothing. But you have a good point of, yeah, if you're going to get frustrated and burnt out because what you're doing isn't working because you do have a specific goal in mind and you're just kind of creating a random exercise, the danger of that is that you stop doing anything altogether, right? Because it's so then at that point you're not even doing something.
Mm-hmm.
So I totally agree with that. Like it's not always something is better than nothing because that can actually lead to nothing, and that's not good. And I think it's noting like if you have a specific goal, remembering that everything you do sends a signal and your body's always trying to adapt to it. So if you're trying to reach something specific, you need to send that signal that creates that specific adaptation. And like if you're wanting to build like be tone and have muscle, right? Think about like the signal that running sends. It's nothing to do with building muscle. So those two things aren't going to end up happening. So yeah, I think that that's a really good point. And I think the something that is better than nothing is not always true.
No.
So then when it comes to like, a lot of people go by the thought that like it's 80% nutrition, 20% working out or whatever. What is your take here? Like how do you think that balance falls?
Yeah, I definitely don't agree with that either. Like everybody says that you can't outwork a bad diet. I will disagree with that. Have seen a lot of athletes eat shitty food and still be really good athletes. So there's something going on there. But yes, nutrition is important. it can set you to the next level, because I have seen people who work really hard and don't get results because their nutrition is shitty. So it's definitely, it does take both. It takes both of your attention at the same time. And I won't say like 100%, but because like in life, it's so hard to always give 100%. Like usually we're like 95, 90, but
Mhm.
it's about both, and giving your
Yeah.
attention to both is where it's at.
I think that's a great answer. Like they're just not, they're two separate things that both play into it. Like it is
Yeah.
giving, 100% or your best. Like, I mean, even the 80-20 rule, like two each though, right? Like, being on top and prioritizing and having the best strategy that can for nutrition and maybe not being 100% perfect because we always talk about like, go live your life, have the ice cream sometimes now and then too, but like doing your best with that. And then separately also doing your best in or training. It's not like
Yeah.
one or the other. Do you when you mentioned though that like you've seen athletes outwork a bad diet, quote unquote, obviously you would say that that's probably not the most ideal, but it just proves that it
No,
can
right?
happen,
Because they're
right?
still putting shitty food
Yeah.
in their body, right? They're still like not getting proper nutrients. They might not be getting enough fiber. And they could just be like genetically like really great at what
Yeah.
they're doing too. So let's just take CrossFit because that's an easy example. I mean, I've seen so many CrossFit athletes like not have a great diet. They drink beer every single weekend and they still like have abs. And that training of CrossFit's really, really intense. They maybe even be doing 2 a days. But they'll eventually get to a point where they're not recovering, and they'll eventually get to a point where they're plateauing, and nutrition can really, really help them like push past that. So there's so many different reasons for why people
Yeah.
can like eat whatever they want, quote unquote,
Right.
and still see results they want to see. It's just like not everyone though. So
Yeah, no, yeah, I agree. And I think like sometimes people just get lucky in terms of they like happen to be doing close enough to the right thing with nutrition on accident almost. Like, they're maybe not eating the best, but they're eating a lot of calories and excess calories, but they are strength training. And then therefore where that goes is to building
yeah,
muscle, right?
yeah.
Um,
Look at people who eat clean and then don't look the way they want
right.
because they're not training properly.
Right, exactly. And again, that goes back to that signal, right? And like you like food, here's how I always say, like to use this analogy. I don't know if you've heard me say this before, but would love your take on it. I think building your body, if that's your goal in any way, whether that is trying to lose weight or trying to build lean muscle, like you are trying to build something in some way. It's like building a house. You have the blueprint that is actually telling you what to build, and then you have the tools that actually put it together. And the training side of things is like the blueprint that's actually telling your body like what you are trying to build, and then whether or not it ends up coming together, that has a lot to do with the tools and if you have the right amount of tools and use the tools the right way. But like you can have all the perfect tools, but if you never like send that signal, if you never have it built out of like what you're trying to build, nothing's going to happen with those tools.
That's
And so
good.
it's like that blueprint, that signal to your body from lifting or from running or from whatever has to come first, and then you have to like support it with the nutrition.
Yeah, that's really good. Good job, Mel.
Thanks. I came up with it myself.
I know, that's really good. I like that.
Okay, so hopefully then we have convinced people that the
Yeah.
right type of training matters. It's not just enough to do whatever on a whim. How would you recommend somebody figure out like, okay, well, what do I do? I get it,
Mhm.
but what do I do?
Gotcha. So, that, yeah, first things first is I think a lot of people avoid things that they don't understand,
Mm,
right? Like nobody wants to go into the gym and not look like they know what they're doing. Like nobody wants to go to the gym and not look like they don't know what they're doing. That's what I
right.
meant. That's intimidating. It's intimidating enough to go into a gym that you've never been into, knowing what to do. Cause like I still get gym
Oh,
intimidated
yeah, same,
gyms.
same.
So I think like first empowering people with like information and a strategy to follow. So whether that is finding a program online, finding someone to help you, doing your research, whatever that looks like for you, whatever resources you're able to give, it's really important to just like have a plan. Instead of like I always say like random workouts equal random results.
Yes. Love that quote.
There's no structure. We can't manage anything. So you're just like going, maybe I'll do this machine until it burns, and maybe I'll do this machine until it burns. And like, if you look at like athletes, not even like elite athletes, but like normal athletes, like no one who is successful does that. And so, like, if you want to be successful, success leaves clues. Do what successful people
Mhm.
do. They have a set structure and a program. The issue with classes is they are meant to be fun. They are meant to make you sweat. They're good community. I get it. It can challenge you for sure, and it can definitely change your body comp. But like at some point, like there is still so much level of like random shit thrown in there. It's like, how do you actually know if you're
Right.
getting better? So I would say for somehow like find a plan, research a plan, put it together yourself, like do something that is structured. And just like start there and then keep track of that session. Like sessions, don't try to change things up too often. You know, it's okay for it to be a little bit monotonous. I think a lot of people like feel like they have to be entertained when they work out, and sometimes entertainment just leads again to like that
Yep.
randomness that we talked about. So keeping track, like workout to workout, like how you're improving as far as like how many sets you're doing, how many reps you're getting, how many like how much weight you're doing, and then record like was that easy, was that medium, was it hard? And I'm talking at like a level of like a beginner here, like there's
Hmm.
somewhere to start. And then just like continue to set that out for like 4 to 6 weeks, and then take pictures of your body composition and see yourself like improve, because there's no way it's not going to, right? If you're putting a new stimulus on your body that hasn't yet adapted to, like it's just science at this point, like that will,
Yeah.
yeah.
If you guys are like on that note, you guys need to go back and listen to the like last week's episode on progressive overload because Kayla just started to allude to a lot I talked about there, and I mentioned the same thing about like classes, those kind of things. It doesn't allow for that signal to continue to like progressively overload and adapt. So I think that's definitely a great place to start. And I know getting into this next question is going to be difficult because getting into now the nitty gritty, what as you just talked about, like it can't be random. It has to be really meant for where you're at and customized. So I know a big answer here is going to be like, it depends. But as you are somebody who builds out programming for your clients, you guys have even spent some time building out some really awesome templated, more generic program that people can typically do really well with. Like, what does the right training look like? And I guess maybe we can start with even newbies. So I don't know how like in the weeds you want to get in terms of like phasing and meso and macro cycles. But yeah, what does that kind of look like?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you look at, again, any successful athlete, let's just take like a bikini competitor, like a really extreme example. They have their whole year mapped out. Hell, they might have like 2 or 3 years mapped out. But they have a plan. A lot of people just go like day by day, like seat of their pants. And
Yep.
while that can be okay, but like in Evolve, we like to do, it's called athletic journey forecasting, and showing the athlete what their journey looks like over the next 6-12 months. By the way, we call all of our clients athletes because we've just created that culture. So sometimes that can turn people away because they're like, I'm not an athlete. I'm like, well, like everyone is an athlete, and that's just like the way that we
I
are.
love that mindset.
Yeah. And it's been because I had some side tangent. I had some type of way when I left athletics. I was like, I only want to work with athletes, but like those weren't the people who were coming to me yet. And I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna make athletes. Like,
Yeah.
whatever. And so that's where that came from. But whenever though we start, we want to first focus on like making sure that we're moving appropriately. Like, so can we do certain like core movements like squatting? Can we hinge and deadlift? Can we do like bilateral movements such as lunges? Like, can we hold a plank? Can we do a push up? I like to look at those foundational movements because that gives me as the coach like a lot of good information of like where to take you and what we need to work on as far as like foundational things go. From there, you have to like build your work capacity. And what that means, it doesn't mean like, oh, like just go run or like go like sweat. It means you need just to prepare your body for the loads that it's about to endure, because you are going to load your body pretty heavy in the coming months. So if you can recover from that properly, you're going to be able to progress better. So I like to always institute a work capacity phase, where we're just pretty much priming and preparing the body for the next phase that's coming into it. Typically, the next phase after that would be like muscle hypertrophy. So depending on the goals of the person, that work capacity phase can last anywhere from like 4 weeks to like 3 months. It really just depends. If you have somebody who's more of like a strength endurance type of person and they have like running goals, that might be a good phase to extend. If you have somebody who really doesn't have any interest in that, but they, you know, they need to like get in shape, like then we can play around with that length. And then we're getting into building muscle. So also in the work capacity phase, we're like preparing the tendons for load as well. So we're lifting at like higher volume, we're getting in different ranges of motion. And now we're really building that tissue. So we're focusing on muscle hypertrophy at that point. And then if it's appropriate, then we go into like a pure strength phase. And because now for a strength phase, they have more leverage, which is muscle, and they're able to actually like get in better positions to get stronger. You're definitely going to get stronger, like just overall building muscle mass. So it again depends on somebody's goal. If somebody has like strength, like pure strength goals, then you would go into a strength phase. If somebody like doesn't really have strength goals, you can continue to ride out the hypertrophy phase and even do like a pseudo like hypertrophy and strength phase. That's typically how we like to build it out, depending on who we have coming in. Some people we have coming in, they've been training for years and years and years, and you don't like need to go through all that
Mhm.
process. But for like someone starting, that's where I would start them.
I love this conversation because I think this take things to the next level. Because like again, last week's episode was about progressive overload. I think a lot of people hear that buzzword, whether or not they know what it means. Hopefully, people are learning. But then I think a lot of people think it stops there. Like, okay, great. I go in with a plan. I'm following for 4 to 6 weeks or whatever, the same workouts, and I'm always trying to add weight or reps or whatever. Great, awesome. Well, now I think the next layer that people do not know about is the fact that there has to be strategy to when you change that 6 week phase and you replace the exercises. It's not just replacing or switching up the exercise movements. It's their strategy to now what rep range are we working in? What rest periods are we working with? And you just used a lot of words that I think people aren't probably super familiar with, like hypertrophy and like, a strength phase. And so now taking it to that next level beyond just progressively overloading your workouts every week, what
Mhm.
is really maybe like the for dummies version of why, even if you have pretty basic goals and you're not trying to go forever a 1 rep max, like what is the importance of going through phases that are focused on, well, and I'm wondering if I'm skipping ahead, maybe it would be worth even giving a for dummies version of like what a strength phase is, what a hypertrophy phase is.
Yes. So there are three like main components for like when it comes to like building muscle hypertrophy. And I had to literally look them up because they literally just skipped out of my brain. But the first one is going to be like mechanical tension. So making sure that like you're actually like loading properly. Then the second one is going to be like muscular damage. And so we're going to really make sure that we have to give damage to the muscles, the soreness that you're feeling. That is actually indicative of growth. And so I know like we're in this camp a lot now where, oh, it doesn't matter if you're sore. Well, like at some point, it kind of does. Like it kind of is a signal. Like we do need to understand. Wow, sorry, my dog is barking. We do need to understand that soreness is a tool, or I'm sorry, like a message to us that we did create that muscular tension. And then metabolic stress is another one too. So mechanical tension, muscle damage, and metabolic stress are what actually builds muscle. And muscle is really important, obviously, for many reasons, but most importantly, like more muscle just makes things so much easier, like your life easier. You can eat
Yes,
more food,
absolutely.
you'll look better, it'll make your clothes fit better, like for the most part, right? I mean, I know sometimes like quads grow and whatever, jeans feel weird, but hey, that's part of it. But muscle just makes things so much easier. And going into a strength phase, like a pure strength phase, is really cool because it's like, okay, like what can like my body actually do, right? Do I think everybody needs to do 1 rep maxes? No, because strength is skill. If you don't have the skill to hit a 1 rep max, you're probably not going to just go up and hit one or hit at a weight that you think that you should be.
Yeah.
Like I can, and I used to power lift. So back in my powerlifting days, I would be able to go hit 1 rep maxes really easily. But now I like can't, like it's hard for me to get in that position just because I haven't practiced it. So strength is skill. I can bang out like 185 pounds for 5 on a deadlift, but if I go lift 225 one time, I'm gonna have a hard time. So I always like to say, like, if your goal is to hit more like 1, 2, 3 rep maxes, you have to like train for that.
Mhm.
And that's like not fun for a lot of people because it's actually really boring. It's like 5 minute rest periods. You're usually not sweating. And a lot of people just don't enjoy that type of training. So it takes a really special person, an athlete, to like want to do that for it to even like for somebody to even get the benefit out of
Benefit,
it. Does
yeah.
that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, strength is really just like absolute strength. And like I said, you're going to get stronger really just like starting anything because of the cool like neuromuscular gains that you'll get, which you can really ride out for like 1, maybe 2 years. If you're like a quote unquote like newbie lifter, which is really exciting. Everybody wants to be advanced. I'm like, why? Why do you want to be
Yeah.
advanced?
No, don't.
You just,
It's like you hit up, it's, I mean, not that you hit a plateau, but like you have to remember that there is a, like a point of diminishing returns, right? Where like you're not going to keep progressing in the weight you can use and the, like, it just gets harder. Like, yeah, no, I miss the
so.
newbie days. Okay. So then I guess, cause like, I definitely have always felt like it's very important, even if your goal is to not, hit a 1 rep max or whatever, we still want to go through periods of time where maybe we're focused on 4 to 6 reps or, rather than that 8 to 12 typical hypertrophy. And for anybody who
Yep.
doesn't know what hypertrophy is, that's typically the phase where we're really pushing more of the muscular growth, whereas strength is pushing more of the, like we said, absolute strength, the potential that your body can lift. And like the
Mhm.
two can go together because obviously to have better strength, you're going to probably need larger muscles, which is
Yeah.
why it is important to go through like all of these phases, right? But would you say for the general person who is really just trying to look good and build some lean muscle, like do you have them spend the majority of their time in more hypertrophy type phasing?
Yeah, but the majority of their time, but we do like make it like a pseudo like um kind of like power building, if you will, where the main movement will be lower reps, such as like high sets, like low reps, high intensity, and then we'll have some fun with like higher up like accessories. So maybe like part of their lift is more strength focused, whereas the accessories are more like hypertrophy focused. So I typically find that athletes who have been in the hypertrophy phase for a while really like that because it's just a mix up. It's
Yeah,
different. They're
it's
like, oh
fun.
shit, like look what my body can do. And
Yeah,
it's a lot of fun. And I will also say, like, it's also really, really great for everyone to go through like a strength phase similar to that. Just because it also can build more mass. Like it can also build more mass. You're getting like these new like neurological
right.
adaptations that you didn't get from the previous phases that are going to actually help you build more muscle when you like go back into that hypertrophy phase. So
Yeah, and I think that there's something to note there is like we talk a lot about like progressive overload. Okay, you need to follow the same plan for a while and have the opportunity to load more, add more intensity in whatever way. But there is also again a point of diminishing returns where you have to have something novel. And it is like finding that balance of okay, now we also change up like the type of stimulus we're applying. Not necessarily like we're still strength training, we're still have an ultimate goal, but like now the focus is going to be more of a signal of building strength or more of a signal of endurance when it comes like muscular endurance, right? Like I think there is that fine balance of continue what you're doing for a period of time, but also we do need novelty. And that is where like the expertise comes in of really knowing like sometimes it's even hard to I think be objective about yourself of like knowing, okay, am I
yeah.
here? Am I hit a plateau?
Totally. And I would say for anyone listening who feels like some sort of way about like outsourcing for help, dude, there are so many fitness coaches out there that have coaches.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
it is totally fine if you have somebody help you.
I mean,
A
you even
lot
have that's like half your client base.
I know, right? And it's so cool when I tell people who aren't coaches that because I was on a call with this amazing athlete. She's a CrossFit athlete and she's plateaued, shocker. And she's like, I was just like, thought I could do it on my own. And I actually felt some type of way about like wanting and needing help. And I'm like, girlfriend, like, do you cut your own hair? Do you like change
Facts.
your own oil? Like, do you like do all these? Like, no, you hire things out and it's totally okay and encouraged to hire a professional or ask for help when you don't know how to do this. Everybody thinks they should just know everything about fitness. And that's just like there's too much out
Too
there.
much. 100%. I mean, I'm
So
learning
don't
I'm
feel
learning
that.
stuff on this podcast listening to you. That's a mic drop. Do you cut your own hair? And it's like,
You cut
although
your own hair?
that's
No,
definitely
I
becoming a
hope
thing
not.
though. Okay, so we talked a lot about like training phases, I think before we wrap up, I would love to also just touch on exercise selection within those
Okay.
phases. Because again, it's not even as simple to be like, it's a leg day. Let me just pick like 5 leg movements. Like there is also strategy, right? To like making sure you have the right amount of volume for the main like quads versus hamstring. So I'm gonna keep that really open ended. But I guess what how would you say how important would you say exercise selection is within these things?
Yeah, it is important. I think some people put like too much emphasis on it and don't understand how to pivot, because if you think about the beginning of your training session, that is when you are most fresh. So that is when you want to, if you're trying to build a certain skill or you're trying to grow a certain area, that should be placed at the beginning of your training. So a lot of people get into the camp of like compound movement, accessory movement, then bilateral, then like single joint. And that's fine. That's totally fine. It's like very, very like normal. But also too, like you can totally do a bilateral strength build, like unilateral strength builder. You can totally do a split squat as a strength builder. You can do you can get your like your quads primed for squats or hamstrings primed for squats. And a lot of people just coaches particularly they are in this like I have to do it this way.
Mm-hmm.
So there is some gray area there, but also on the flip side of that, if you're just like doing random shit and you're like, okay, I'm gonna do this, this, and this, and you have no rhyme or reason, you could be leaving a lot on the table there. So like I saw this girl like doing Bulgarians like at the very, very end of her workout. And I don't know about you, but if I'm putting Bulgarians at the end of my split squat, I'm lifting like 20
Oh
pounds.
yeah, that was me today.
Bye.
I make a mistake.
Goodbye. Goodbye, right? But if I'm really wanting to grow my glutes and I'm really wanting to hit that movement hard, I'm going to put it towards the top of my
Totally.
training.
Totally.
And then, there's literally so many different ways that you can do
Yeah.
it, but it is important. It's very, very important that you follow a exercise selection that makes sense for your goal, for
Yeah.
sure.
I think that is what is the biggest takeaway is like how much you are basically saying it depends. Like it's important and then it's what your goals are. It's not like, oh, squats should always be first or like you need like a leg extension in your workout all the time. Like it's dependent on what your goals are. And for somebody that might mean like having more of their accessory movements at the beginning because they're working on muscular endurance or they're working on these smaller, like they want to, define their biceps. They don't really care right now about like getting their deadlift up. And somebody's might be like, I want to, really work on my deadlift strength. Well, like you're going to put that first, right? So it is so dependent person to
Yeah, and
person.
even like I've even put like heavy rows like toward the end of a training session because I don't want that athlete to like overload
Yep.
that
Yep.
and like for safety. So
Yeah.
like I've done things like that as well. But like if for somebody who doesn't know what to do, they go in the gym. If like you cannot go wrong like hitting a compound movement, hitting an accessory, hitting a unilateral movement, and then hitting a single joint. Like you
Yeah.
cannot go wrong doing that and hitting all those to appropriate intensities. That's totally fine. And that can carry you out for a very long time. But you can definitely like move them around, especially if you want to work on a certain like skill or movement.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so hard because everything in health and fitness, like pretty much the answer is it depends. And I
I
always
know, I
say,
hate it because it's not sexy.
no, it's not. And
It's
it's
trying to
and
be
it,
more polarizing.
yeah.
It's
But the
hard.
truth is it really does depend. And like I
Yeah.
always say too, though, like a good coach is gonna say it depends because if they're giving you a direct answer, like they're not really taking into consideration you and your like personal goals and constraints and all of those things. So I think this got us to a really good point. I'm sure we could really get into the weeds a lot more, but I know a lot of my audience is more on the train of I just want them to realize that the strategy behind training matters. Like, I'm happy you are moving your body, but if you have these goals you want to reach, we need to be a little bit more strategic with picking what we're doing. And I think that this conversation really shed light on that. So, anything
Yeah.
that you want to kind of add that we didn't touch or wrap up on?
Yeah. Well, I think like most of the women who are maybe having these thoughts, right? They want better glutes,
Mm-hmm.
right? They want maybe like some more like defined shoulders, defined arms. That doesn't come from doing 45 minutes on the Stairmaster.
No, it's not.
It's not. It doesn't come from doing Orange Theory. It doesn't come from doing a lot of the high intensity. Like when I say high intensity on that front, I'm meaning like just like go, 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 no rest. Like it doesn't come from that. Like that's not the mechanism at which we grow our glutes. And so you could be like honestly doing more damage than not because you're not even like it could you could be losing muscle.
Mm-hmm.
And while you may, oh, I'm losing weight, but like you could also be losing muscle, especially if you aren't again putting that stimulus on it. So that's just like one thing I want to know. So women who are listening to this who are in this camp, everybody wants a better ass. Everybody does, but
Facts.
you're not going to get it by doing glute kicks on a stairmaster. It just doesn't happen. It looks
Correct.
might burn, but it's not going to build you.
I think that is a great note to end on. I think if you are listening to this and you feel like she just talked about what you're doing or called you out, take note of that. Okay.
Yeah.
But thanks so much for joining us, Kayla. And yeah, I've just always learned so much from talking to you. I mean, our clients know this, but we even use y'all's templated program to at least start the foundation of what we give a lot of our clients because I trust your programming and your knowledge so much. So it was great to learn from you today. I hope my audience did as well. So thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. It was so fun.
All right, bye guys. We will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.